Hey guys, welcome back to the Girlfriends and Goals podcast. My name is Samaria and I'm joined by my best friend and co-host,
Miosha.
and today we're reviewing Married at First Sight season 18, episode 7. And they called this one the Basement Blues. I said, get out of here.
Trifling.
But listen, before we get into the review, if you enjoy the show, make sure that you subscribe to our channel, give this video a thumbs up, and please comment below. Let us know if you agree or disagree with our takes. If there's something you caught that we didn't, just let us know what you thought about the episode in total. All right, we're going to kick things off with Carla and Juan. Is it me or did his beard grow in overnight?
It was growing in Mexico. You could tell he hadn't been cutting it, and
Okay.
I guess for whatever reason he's not grooming it. I think at the wedding he was clean shaven. Yeah, all the way down. So yeah, that is a significant change. Yeah.
He looks handsome either way, but I just felt like last week I didn't see much, and then today, well, this week it was just a whole lot.
Yeah,
But
it is different.
anyway, so they go to Carla's storage. What did you think about this?
I was like, I like how Carla said, y'all are getting nothing from me until I decide I want you to know. I think it's hilarious that we've made it to episode 7 and it hasn't come up that she doesn't have a place to live. She's in transition, I guess. So, according to her, her lease just so happened to be up and she decided, I guess, not to extend it through the process. I guess to give her the most flexibility of potentially moving in and starting immediately with her partner. Juan didn't seem to be put off by it.
Yeah, maybe she was forthcoming with him about it, but I put down interesting timing. It just worked out so perfectly. And there was a season, New Orleans, where one of the people who signed up was a flight attendant, and she, come to find out, just didn't have a place at all. And so I'm just like, okay, Carla, don't be another, I think her name was Christina. Like, don't be another Christina. So I hope that's not the case. But comment down below if you remember Christina, who was matched up with Henry. But I just hope it's not that situation here.
Yeah, and I think it is interesting that a certain person is getting a lot of flack for their living conditions when Carla just doesn't have a place at all. And so I do think if the roles were reversed and it was a man, he would be getting drug as David is.
Yeah.
So,
But I'm bringing it up because I do think it's very suspicious. So even though she is a woman, I'm just like, okay, very interesting that it seems like she has family around, so that she just put all her stuff in the storage. I don't know.
I
It just
think it
seems
should be all equal. I think all the participants of this experiment should have their own stable home.
well, okay. For those who watched the matchmaking special, did the experts visit Carla's home?
Yeah, maybe they
Because
did.
it makes sense to me that I don't want to be moving while I'm filming. So before we do the marriage, before we do all this stuff, I'm just going to put my things in storage. It's the easiest thing to do. So I'm not saying that the story can't check out. I just think the timing is interesting. And then they kind of just briefly mentioned it in passing and now we've moved on. So I did want to tag that. But other than that, I think Carla seemed to be getting a little fed up with Juan being playful all the time.
Yeah, she's definitely getting annoyed by it. She called it out a few times. I think it's a combination of his playfulness and, oh, he just wants to have fun all the time, combined with his lack of thoughtfulness. So when they go to his place, which I don't know, I expected it to look different, and I don't know if that's me projecting on him or what, but
No, I agree because you remember all his family and friends are like, oh, you like things a certain way. You like things very particular and so it wasn't giving particular.
yeah, it wasn't what I expected. I think I expected it to be more put together. than what it was. And so they sit down and they have this conversation about her potentially moving into his place once the experiment is over, or assuming they say yes on decision day. And in so many words, he told her, like, yeah, most of the stuff I have here, I like it. So you'll probably be getting rid of a lot of your stuff.
You felt like that's the message that was communicated?
Yes, he did. Did he mention anything that he would be willing to get rid of?
To me, the only thing that he seemed most attached to was the hammock, because she asked him plainly, like, are you okay with my stuff coming in here? And he seemed not so resistant to that, in my
But what did he
opinion.
say? Do you remember what he said?
No, he was saying like certain things, I've put in here are temporary, but when you come in, and this is a real rough synopsis from what I recall, but certain things are just here, but when you come in, like, there will be space made for you. It wasn't a lengthy conversation. I don't think it was one where they spent so much time on it that he was able to really reassure her and say, well, how do you see things? But he wasn't, like, in my opinion at least, completely resistant to, yeah, I know you have somewhere that you need to put, or I know you have things that you need to put in a place as well.
What I heard was him listing off things he didn't want to get rid of. So maybe I'm making an assumption. And you're right, the conversation wasn't that long, but in a roundabout way, it sounded as though, like, yeah, I have, like, oh, if you have a TV stand, that could work because he essentially doesn't have one. But
Can we
other
talk
than
about
that,
that?
he was like, oh, well, that coffee table, da da da, the rug, oh, the rug is brand new. She's like, really? So he listed off at
No,
least three
because she had
things.
she had said first, yeah, the rug looks like it's been beat up. First of all, I mean, according to interior decorators, which that's not my ministry, but that rug was too small for that space anyway, so he really should consider getting one. But can we talk about the TV stand? Because he was like, oh yeah, I thought it would be cool. Now, just be honest, if you just haven't gotten around to getting a TV stand, that's perfectly fine. Or you haven't been able to invest in one, that is okay. But don't tell me you thought this little crate thingy, the drywall cart, was a good TV stand. Yeah.
Yeah, I just didn't get the vibe that he was really being mindful of her. So I think it's the him playing around and everything is so funny, as well as the lack of thoughtfulness.
And to me, Carla's a very serious person. I think because of how she talks and because, she may be the smallest person in the room physically, I think from what I've seen online and maybe in person too, people think she's this like a hippie, carefree type of person. But from the first episode, I've always thought, oh, this woman is very serious, very intentional. And it might be in ways that aren't the most conventional. Like her career is more flexible, but she's a very serious person. So I could see why his joking all the time might be a little bit off putting.
Yeah. And then they sit down with Pastor Cal and Dr. Pepper, and they,
Dr. Peppers.
I know, they basically just bring up what we've already heard about the lack of mindfulness and then her passive aggressiveness, which she agrees that she is. But Dr. Pepper agreed with her in that she should be his main priority. I still go back to what he said just didn't make sense to me, and I don't understand why he would say it.
Oh, that he forgot about her? Yeah, I mean, it was a very mindless thing to say. But I enjoyed the session that they had with Pastor Cal and Dr. Peppers. Um, I felt like
Sorry,
they
I have to grab my charger.
huh?
I have to grab my charger. I'm not plugged
Oh,
in.
go for it. I'll keep talking.
Okay.
But I felt like it was a session that was absolutely necessary to happen, and it almost made me like them as a couple. It almost made me see the potential in them as a couple because of how receptive, I know, because of how receptive each one of them was to what was being said, and how they were like, yeah, I can see that in myself, and yeah, that's something that needs to be changed. I put down that I think they're getting really good tools for their next relationships.
Oh, you're so hopeful.
For their next relationships, not for each other necessarily. Like, I said it almost gave me hope in them as a couple because of how receptive they were. I don't think, ultimately, no matter how many tools you have, if it's the wrong person, it's the wrong person.
Mm-hmm.
Um, so yeah, I think they'll try to stick it out as much as they can, but ultimately, I don't see them being together. But I think they can really gain good tools here through this process.
Yeah, I agree. And then Juan just mentioned about how he's pulled back physically because
Mm-hmm.
it's clouded his judgment. And Dr. Pepper told him, well, you still can show affection and interest in your partner. So just
Yeah.
because you don't want to go all the way, that
Mm-hmm.
doesn't mean you do nothing, which I agree with.
Yeah. Because they've pulled back on like touching each other and all of that. I think Dr. Pepper said something that I just appreciated hearing. She said, the more direction you give each other, the more you're likely to get from the other person. And so I appreciated that because sometimes you don't want to say what you want because it might come off a certain way or you feel like the person should already know that. But, it seems very helpful to just say what it is that you need to say so that you can get it.
I agree.
Yeah.
All right.
Alrighty. So I guess we'll go to Thomas and Camille.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. So was it her who said about his kitchen? The kitchen is very bare bones. And it was, to use David's word, and I can't wait to get to that. It was simple. It was simple. Okay. She goes to his closet. She was very pleased that he had some Jordans. I don't know. Camille, I get it. And I don't think this is something that's so awful about her or so awful about him. I think it's just getting used to, this is what I maybe had in mind for 32 years, however old she is. And he's just a little different. I think it's just taking her some time to get used to it.
I agree, while at the same time,
Mm-hmm.
I don't know. I just feel like if you sign up for this experiment, it's like a shot in the dark. And if
Yes.
they give you someone where the core values, they're marriage minded, there is physical
Yes.
attraction. I think, I don't know, in the grand scheme, I just wish that she would allow a bit more time.
I think she is though. Okay, for me here's the thing. She is allowing more time, but she can still, in my opinion, she's still permitted to say, "Oh, this is what is giving me a little bit of pause," or "This is what I didn't expect." Like, this is still a process where she met a stranger. So I can understand it taking a while to reconcile. Oh, okay, this is what I've become accustomed to over these past few years, and he's different from that. Let me feel my way through. Like, nothing she's saying or doing to me is like a huge
I,
deal.
I think the way she's doing it is a bit offensive.
Okay, say more.
Yeah, so she goes into his closet. She's, so happy to see the Jordans.
Hmm.
In my mind, people's style will evolve and change.
Not at
Um,
42, always, just
well,
saying.
no, but I think in the time that she's been with him, and we've heard him say, like, he's open to feedback. I'm not
Hmm.
saying he's gonna flip who he is as a person, but the whole style thing, I think that's where he might be open to her coming in and assisting.
Hmm.
Um, and I will say that I think if the roles were flipped and he was like making comments about how, well, you don't wear heels enough, or like your style isn't exactly what I would want, I think he would be getting a very different response and reaction. So I'm gonna table that right there.
Yeah, because I want to come to that with another couple, but I can't speak to what society would say. I know for me, I don't see it being an issue if someone's partner is like, can you dress up a little bit more or can you dress up differently? I don't think that's like a big offense, especially if they're not saying like male or female, right? I don't think it's a major offense.
I don't think it would be a major offense, but I do think that men commenting on women's physical appearance in terms of dress, weight, physical fitness, all of that is, I think, interpreted a lot different. And I don't think men typically have as much room and runway with calling out those things, and they run the risk of being labeled as, I don't know, insensitive. I just don't think that men typically have as much bandwidth to comment on those types of things. I don't want to stay too long on that. I kind of want to
Yeah.
jump to the conversation where she was talking with her sister, and she.
Oh, wait, before we get, because I do have a few things before
Mhm.
the sister conversation, but I'll move on too because I think maybe we'll talk about this more with Madison and Allan.
Mhm.
Okay, I'm just making sure we're
Mhm.
thinking the same things, but I just wanted to say that I personally don't think there's anything wrong with Thomas's style. I think it's just pretty laid back and
And she agreed because
yeah,
Pastor Crowd asked
but
her.
after she saw the Jordans, I think based on what he wore all honeymoon, she probably didn't expect him to have tennis shoes, you know? And so that's why I say I don't necessarily mind that it's a slow like we're 10 days, 11 days in. She doesn't know this man so much that she didn't even know he would have some Jordans, you know? So I don't think it's a big deal, but we'll talk about that with Madison. I don't think his style is anything out of the ordinary, but talking to her sister gave me more of a perspective about why I think this is a big issue, a bigger issue for her.
Right. And so you want to talk about when she sits
Wait,
with the sister, or you want to
sorry.
go ahead?
The experts. Yeah,
Yeah,
sorry. The
okay.
experts come first. Okay, go ahead.
Yeah, so Pastor Cal and Dr. Pepper come, and she calls out how they're pretty culturally different,
Hmm.
even though they're both biracial. And y'all confirmed in the comments last week her mom is white, his mom is white. She
Thanks,
said that
guys.
she calls out how she had a more diverse experience growing up versus his. Um, Pastor Kyle asked, "Well, what's missing?" She said the smoothness and the swag factor. Swag. I'm sorry. The all the times that she mentioned swag, I was like, "Is this 2010?"
She is such a right. I was like, girl, I'm a millennial too, but come on.
She said, "Soldier Boy, tell him." So anyway, she calls out how the swag factor is missing. Um, and then Pastor Kyle asks her, "Well, do you want to take them shopping?" And but then she calls out some of maybe the corny jokes. So it sounds like she's maybe getting the ick around certain things and maybe feeling like there's maybe isn't as much relatability. But I don't know. There are certain things about him where I wouldn't describe it as swag, but I don't know. He doesn't seem to be oblivious or so far removed from black culture.
Hmm.
And so obviously she's seeing more of this man than I am, but it sounds as though either she desired to be paired with a black person or a biracial person who had a more similar experience to her. So it's a few things. It's a swag factor and smoothness in her words, as well as not being able to culturally relate.
So I get the corny jokes thing, like the whole floss thing. Like, okay, we're still new here. I still want you to try to impress me, try to like certain things that maybe he's saying aren't giving a romantic vibe. And obviously this is your husband, so that's going to be the case. Like
Mhm.
like you get used to somebody, and over time, like there are things that you wouldn't have done when you guys were dating that now you're going to do. And so I think maybe he's getting too comfortable too soon, and it's like I still want, for Camille, it seems like she still wants to be in that space where it can be a little bit more lovey-dovey, or him being more suave or whatever. And I get that. I With these two, like both of them, I think everything they're saying is like valid and normal. Like there's nothing so bad or so unexpected with these two for me. It's just two people who didn't know what to expect and now are trying to figure out a way forward. And because we've spent a lot of time talking about the negative things that she's been saying, I do still want to highlight she continuously talks about how safe she feels, how just because of how he is, she's able to even express, and that's not something she was ever able to do. She acknowledges how sweet of a guy he is and that she likes him. And so if it were just the negative things, I would be like, oh no, send her back to the streets. But I think what we're seeing with Camille is a realistic and a whole experience.
It may be. I don't know. I think once she made that comment about it feels like she's in an interracial relationship with her sister, I
Mm-hmm.
don't know. That just I still want them to work out. I just don't want her to wear I want her to voice it how she's feeling, but I guess for me some things are better left unsaid.
Hmm.
You're in an interracial relationship?
Well, okay, why? What's wrong about her saying that sometimes she feels like she's in an interracial relationship? Like, what to you is wrong with her saying that?
Because you are both biracial. Even if you were with a black person, you could have different cultural backgrounds. So the assumption is that he's of a different race. Like it implies that he's a I feel like I'm in an interracial relationship implies that he's a different race than what he is.
No, I think, again, they're both biracial, and it seems like she identifies more heavily with one of the races, and he identifies more with the other. So I don't.
But would she have said that, like, say they paired her with a fully black man who grew up in a predominantly white area? I don't know.
Maybe.
She would still be like, oh, I feel like I'm in an interracial relationship.
She might not have used the words interracial, but it might have been a thing where it's like, oh, I'm not finding much commonality. I think because Thomas is biracial, it's easier to identify what that thing is. But with someone else, she might say stuff like, oh, I'm not finding much commonality. I mean, you see this with, dudes who grow up and they were into anime before anime was a popular thing, right? And they would be like, "Oh, well, people from my culture weren't really rocking with me." That's what they say. Like you see where it's like, "Oh, maybe I wasn't feeling the commonalities there." So
I
I
think what's making me sensitive to it is the
Mhm.
fact that Thomas has expressed that this is something he experienced growing up. It's a sore spot for him. In the last episode, he talked about how it stung because it is his wife. And I understand voicing your opinion and feeling like, oh, we're not connecting in that way. But I think with it being tied to race, I
Mhm.
think that's what's making it sensitive for me, and that his life he's gone through not being black enough, and now his wife is expressing essentially that he's not black enough for her.
But can I say, I've only seen her say this to Thomas once. The other times that we're talking about, the experts are coming in and asking, what are the issues that you guys have been having? So I would
Twice.
expect it to come up.
Yeah.
And then when she's talking to her sister, like, unless you're saying that she shouldn't have had that conversation on screen with her sister, but it doesn't seem to me like that's the only thing she's focused on in her interactions with him. So like with the sister conversation, I get it. Hey, if we're going out for a night out and I want to go to okay, I'll say this because I'm West African, right? So if I am dating someone who's not West African or who is West African, and my idea of a night out is, oh, let's go to an African restaurant, let's go to an African lounge. Like, if my idea of a night out is embedded in a certain culture, but then when it's your time for a night out, you want to go to I haven't thought through the full example, but you want to go to somewhere that is, you want to go to a hockey game. I don't know. Not to say Africans can't like hockey, but culturally speaking, it's not the most African thing. So I get how she's feeling like there are different cultures at play here, and I don't think it's a bad thing. Now, if she was letting that prevent her from moving forward with him, I would be one of the first ones to say, this is terrible. But again, I think she's just working through, this is what I've been accustomed to. This is what I have in front of me now. And I'm trying to reconcile it because I realize he's such a great guy and he makes me feel secure and I feel safe with him.
Yeah. I think also part of me is thinking, I understand wanting what you want. Going through this process is an extreme jump. And the swag factor hasn't been working up until now. Okay,
Well,
girl.
we shall see.
If you don't want Thomas, you know who do want
She
him?
did not say that because I've been seeing that on the internet too. And I'm like, whoa, why are we?
I know she didn't say that. I'm joking in that Michelle will take him because this is the light skinned black man.
Cut it out. Cut it out. Not Michelle will take him. Will she?
She would.
Questionable. I think Michelle has her own problems, but
Yeah.
do you feel comfortable moving on to Ikechi and Amim, or did you want to
Let's
say more
see.
here?
Yeah, I think that's it. I think that they'll still work out.
Yeah.
But I want her to voice it, but
I don't think you want her to voice it anymore. I feel like maybe you and some of the audience, because we've seen it in the last 2 episodes, if we are hearing about it a lot in the next episode and the episode after that, I feel like people are going to start to write Camille off.
I could be more sensitive because we're hearing it in a certain order. I agree with her voicing that, hey, we're culturally different. I'm trying to find the commonality in how we'll vibe. But I also think is a few things going on here. It's the style and the smoothness, the corny jokes. So I think it's a few things going on, and I agree that she shouldn't be silenced while at the same time. I think if it's a commonality thing, say that, not you feel like you're in an interracial relationship when you yourself are biracial. I don't.
We can't say how she should communicate the commonality thing, but she did explain that to her sister.
Mainly because he's sensitive to it and he voiced that to her already.
Okay, so if we could agree to this, I think she was having a conversation with her sister, so it's perfectly fine for her to say that. Like, there are things that I'll say to you that I might not say to someone's face, right? Or ways that I would present something to you that I wouldn't present it to someone else's face, right? Because you are my
on
best
national
friend.
television.
No, and if that's the issue, then that's fine. Like, if your issue is she shouldn't have had this conversation with her sister on national TV, or she should have just like been mute about it, but we don't know, maybe because he went for his walk and he's okay now, it was something she cleared with him and it was okay. We don't know the details, But I will say, at the end, she said something like, I'm okay with how, she said to her sister, I'm okay with how he dresses. And her sister even affirmed her, like, I don't think anything's wrong with his style, honestly. I think maybe sometimes people are so in their heads with what they're used to that they think something is more out there than everybody else. Like, they feel like somebody's judging something or everybody else is judging something when everybody else just feels like, oh, it's cool. I think his swag is fine. And so I think she just needed someone else's perspective. But at the end of the conversation, she said, maybe it's the confidence, which if I were her sister, I would have said, I think he's very confident. The fact that they sat with the experts and, she was able to go through all the things that she went through and none of her opinions really fazed him. I think he seems like a very sturdy man.
I agree.
Ikechi and Mem. I have feelings about them going to. I have feelings about them from the jump, but I'll let you start.
Well, you just jump
I
right
feel like
in. You already got feelings.
I feel like I've been talking.
Go ahead and go.
Okay, so from the beginning of the episode, when he said he doesn't want her to think down on him, like he doesn't want her to think he's down bad when she sees his place. I wasn't sure what was going on there. I wasn't sure if he was trying to prepare her for the worst or if he was just trying to be funny. I wasn't sure what was going on there, but I put, why does he keep stressing his meager lifestyle? And I didn't love that. And I hated it even more in the middle of the episode when they went to her house. And it's something that she also picked up on because she said it in her diary moment.
Yeah, it gave me two things at the beginning of the episode. Don't expect much from me. And two, it almost felt as though he was trying to maybe fish for compliments, maybe when they actually did get to his place, which...
Because his place wasn't awful. Like, it was simple.
Nice. It was simple, but like he had a nice view. It gave most other luxury apartments that you'd probably see in that area of Chicago. So it felt like he was fishing for compliments a bit, as well as setting the expectation of, even aside from how they live now, don't expect much from me financially.
Interesting. I thought I read into this. You a reader.
It was already setting the precedence of, well, you got more money than me. Oh, we go out to eat. Oh, you big boss. You got it.
So thank you, because I said the tour of her place gave me, I see you big money. Like that when you're in the dating field, for what I heard, like when you're in the dating field and you do well for yourself and a man almost looks at that as competition. Like, oh, you don't need me. I see you big money. It's like, geez, is that all you offer? Like, I don't need you because you aren't doing as well financially as I am. Like, what's going on? So
yeah,
that's what it gave me.
That's the expectation of, I don't have to do anything, or I don't have to do much, if not anything, because you got it. You got us.
Or just that I feel small in comparison to you. And then how is that going to play off? Like, if you don't even think you compare well to me, what am I supposed to expect from a relationship with you? Are you always is your ego always going to be bruised when I'm just living my regular life?
And for me, I'm not saying that your money is tied to what makes you attractive. It was the way he was maneuvering the situation that made it unattractive. First of all, your place looks perfectly fine, but it's kind of screaming insecurity, and she didn't even do anything to make you insecure.
She seemed fine with it.
Yeah. Perfectly
It's
fine.
a house. You're a teacher. Like, what? She knew you were a teacher. She's not expecting a mansion, sir. Or whatever he is. I don't know. Is he still a teacher? He was. But academic admissions advisor or something.
Yeah.
So, yeah. So they do the tour. And then she brings up how she's nervous because of the way that he's reacting. Because every room they go into, he keeps bringing up the discrepancy. Oh, I don't have this at my place. Oh, look at you. You got this. Oh, this big time. This, like, okay, yeah, she owns a practice. She does well for herself. She's 30 something years old. We get that. The fact that you keep harping on it, the fact that that's the only thing you can say, like, you can't say, oh, this is beautiful. It suits you well. I
Not
can,
one compliment.
right. I see your personality in this place, or this looks like you live here. Oh, I love the art that you've chosen, or the color scheme, or oh, you're really tidy. No, not one compliment. And it's like, you could have taken this moment to, like,
Make it about
compliment
her.
her big up, yeah, like something, but you're so
Mm-mm.
focused on what you lack that you can't, like, you can't praise her, or you can't, it was just awkward for me.
And in a roundabout way, maybe I'm reaching. It's almost as though he was kind of wanting her to feel uncomfortable as well as jump to um how do I say it? Not lowering herself, but you know, like if someone's giving you a bunch of compliments and bitching, you'd be like, oh, it's not that.
Mm-hmm.
You may be like, oh, it's not that much or it's not that big. You almost start to humble yourself because of the way that they're acting is making you so uncomfortable. And that's what I was
Mm-hmm.
starting to feel a little bit, even about this karaoke machine. It's not,
And the uplighting, like, okay, she's investing in her hobbies. Yeah, I didn't love it.
you have expensive instruments in your home.
A bass guitar, and you knew he was gonna play, you knew he was gonna play one of his instruments. That wasn't
Hmm.
lost on me either. Okay. I'm like, he couldn't wait. You want me to play you a little something? Even if she didn't want it, it was gonna. You want to go ahead and do it. You were gonna do it anyway. But yeah, I love the uplighting and the karaoke. I'm like, if you're gonna have a
Yeah.
hobby, that's the way to have it.
Yeah, you're in your 30s, he's 41. Make your house very comfortable and all the things you want it to be. You happily go
Yeah.
out and spend money out, so make home comfy.
As we're talking, it makes me think of a comment that he made when they were sitting with the experts.
Mm.
But yeah, I'll just jump to the experts conversation. So they asked him, what did you think when she came down the aisle? Which I think he is lying. I don't think that was his initial reaction. It wasn't even
And
mine. And I think she's beautiful.
well, that's the thing. Oh, you're a poet, you have a way with words. Never once has he said, "Oh, she was beautiful. Oh, she bad." What
Hmm.
what I don't know. Maybe I'm being sensitive to it, but I want you to call me beautiful, not oh she bad. It feels for his age,
It feels like
it
home.
feels yes. It doesn't feel genuine. We know it's not, but you would think, oh, I thought she was pretty. I thought she had a
Yeah.
beautiful smile. I was blown away.
Hmm.
Describe me in a more mature way. That's what I
I
need
am
you to
your
do.
wife. Have some dignity.
Like, I would expect a 21-year-old to be like, oh, she bad. I'm like, okay, it makes sense. You're 21 years old. You're 41. Why are you describing your wife in this way?
Oh man.
Okay.
So yeah. So she said that she would like to hear from him what he wants, like some
Mm-hmm.
more intentionality, which it doesn't surprise me because I don't know that he fully thinks of her as a wife. And so no, he's not intentional about telling you what he wants out of a wife because he doesn't see you as someone who can fill that role. Like, y'all are cool. Y'all are
And
homies.
Pastor Kyle asked, like, oh, have you started to discuss the future? No. Really on screen, they've had the same few conversations round and round. Nothing, we haven't
Hmm.
learned a whole lot. And she basically said, I've been digging for more, but we haven't made any progress. So he has so many words, but nothing to actually move them forward and really getting to know each other.
Yeah, he's lacking some depth there. I don't know if he's lacking it or he just doesn't. He's a person who hasn't had a serious relationship in like over a decade. So, how much depth can we expect? Like, even when Carla was saying, I've been single for the last few years, but I've been intentional about working on myself, and now I'm trying to apply those things. I don't know that Ikechi can say the same thing.
Mm-mm. No, I
So,
still don't get. I think he's still looking to have fun
I
and
think so
promote
too.
his book. I don't get I'm ready to settle. Um, the fact that he's I think been in Chicago less than a year when this was filmed and he
Hmm.
jumped right to signing up. Why wouldn't you give a new city at least 2 years? Doesn't make sense.
Well, maybe because he's 40, he's in his 40s, and they don't have 2 years. I remember I was working with a lady who was, I think, in her 40s, and we were all having a conversation. This is way back, like after college, and I was like, "Oh, ideally you'd want to date a person maybe like at least 2 years." And she was like, "Well, I'm this age. I don't have 2 years, so maybe he feels that way. He doesn't
Mm,
have 2 years, so."
mm, yeah. But I think I don't know if it was Dr. Pepper or Pastor Cal asked, well, what do you want to see more of? And this guy says, I want to see I don't know if it's the poet in me, but I want to see the art in you. You know, you're very mechanical, very rigid. And,
He ain't say rigid, but that's what I took it as. He might as well
and
have said it.
yeah, Imam is just sitting there like, yeah, okay. But to me, that's not true. I get that because he mentioned something about her tidying up the house every evening and making sure things are in their right place. But I don't, I see the art in him. She loves karaoke. You walk into her home, it feels vibrant, well put
Mhm.
together. So I see balance in her. Actually, she clearly loves to laugh and have a good time, drink, let her hair down. I see someone who's driven, has worked hard to get the life that she has, obviously has to be very disciplined to
Mhm.
be for her career to be in the position that it is. But I
Yes.
see the other side of her as well. And so,
Yeah. I didn't write this in my notes, but as we've been talking, that's the comment that I've come to. The I want to see the art in you. And I wonder if it is not a dig, not an intentional dig. Like we don't have positive things to say about Ike much here, but it feels like a dig at her success because she's had to be mechanical to build the career that she has. And so I think that's the part of her that he's overly focused on. I can't say this for sure because I'm not the one who's been living with her. So I think we do have to take his word for some of it. But I think the reason why he might be hyper focused on that is because of the success factor.
like, what else does she have to offer other than that?
Not just what else does she have to offer outside of that, but more so, I think sometimes when people are only focused on how successful you are, they try to make your successful qualities a negative. And it felt like
Mm.
that's what he was doing. Like,
Okay,
you're
I
so
see.
mechanical. I'd like you to stop being that it's like I don't think she's
Mhm.
mechanical. I mean, I don't think she's all mechanical. Like there are obviously sides of you are laughing with her all the time. You guys are being playful and all of that. So she's obviously not, but I think he's hyper focused on that because it's tied to her success. That's just
And
my thought.
and let's talk about mechanical, Mr. I have to
I
be in
go
bed every night by
at
9 p.m.
9,
so I can be up
correct?
by 5 and in the
Exactly.
gym, and that doesn't
Exactly.
sound mechanical and rigid to you. And
Right.
what I loved was how Pastor Cal, I think he was expecting Pastor Cal to agree with him.
Mhm.
He's like, "No, that could be time spent with your wife." Hmm.
Yeah. So you're gonna have to stay up an hour later. And again, if he were invested in advancing, I don't think this would be a problem.
So something that I wish Imim would have done differently was
Mm.
Pastor Cal asked about physical touch.
Mhm.
And even just the way that they're sitting, maybe the couch is awkwardly shaped. I don't know. But he's seeing that there isn't much physical touch there. And so he asked, are the ingredients there for intimacy? And immediately Imim jumps in and is like, yes, I wouldn't be here if it wasn't. I wish that she would have said, oh,
Let him
either not
answer.
said anything or said something later or just given him the opportunity to speak on it, because a few times she's mentioned that physical touch is one of her higher love languages. She's
Mhm.
interested in moving things forward physically. I felt like Ikechi was able just to kind of sit there and coast through and not really have to say much. Just be like, knowing that he's not interested in progressing things forward. And
Mm.
so, yeah, I wish she would have held
Just
back in
letting
that
him.
moment. Yeah,
Fair. I can agree with
just
that.
to see what he would say.
Yeah. Yeah, but he probably would have said something. We
I know
wouldn't have gotten much from it anyway,
you
but
right.
I agree with you. Like, are the ingredients there for us to have something more physical?
Hmm.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Okay. That's all I have on these
yeah,
two.
that's it.
All right. We are at, let's do David and let's get them out of the way.
Hmm.
Okay. So, all right. I think he said something at the beginning about how he's never gotten a speeding ticket or been suspended. And then she was twisting her mouth up like, what do you want him to be? A road rage devil or whatever they call those things? Like, there's nothing he can say that'll go over positively with her.
Mm-mm.
But
Nope.
they had their meeting with the experts first. And I put one thing Dr. P is going to do. She's going to pull up receipts because she's probably on the internet. She probably sees us saying stuff like, these experts match people poorly. These experts don't know what to do or don't know what they're doing. And she's like, not on my watch.
Mm-mm. Nope. Before we get to the receipts, though,
Hmm.
David once again is confirming that he got everything that he wanted. I just wish he would stop
Him and
talking
the
about,
men need some lessons.
like, just let it go, because she's not going to reciprocate it.
Yeah.
Um,
She doesn't take it as a compliment because she didn't get anything she wanted by
oh
her own
yeah,
admission.
yeah, and she says, "Oh, I've been bombarded with things that I don't want in a partner." He quickly says, "I'm willing to adapt." And she's like, "Oh, well, don't change for me." Yeah, David, she's still not going to want you, even though you quit smoking. So you might as well enjoy your cigarettes or vaping or whatever you do, because it's
Okay.
not going to change her mind. But he's like,
You might
"No,
as well get lung cancer because
listen, no judgment over here." But he's like, "Oh, don't get it twisted. It would be for the both of us,
yeah.
that I would be making this decision to better myself as well. He can't win either way." Um, Go ahead.
Hmm. What? No,
No,
I mean I
you're.
agree.
Oh, you agree? Oh, okay. I thought you were
Yeah.
gonna say something. Oh, okay. But then after that, I think it jumps to Dr. Pia asking her, "Well, do you remember what you asked for?"
Do you remember? Do you remember on the couch in the room? that. Okay. And she was like, "Oh, I think I remember." Okay, let's be serious.
Yeah.
So they specifically, and I don't know if Dr. Pia had somebody in mind when she was talking to Michelle, and that's why she asked such specific
That was a
questions.
very specific question.
She said, "You're not going to play me. I asked you this. I said this to you." And you said, what did she say? She said, yeah, I'm okay if she said, if it's someone who, has had his own, but he's, maybe living at home to transition out of that and to like save money for a house, would that be something that you'd be okay with? She was like, oh yeah, I would be okay with that. You are so, and I don't want to use the word desperate, but you were so eager
To get on the
to
show.
go through this process. Yeah, that you were just agreeing to things left, right, and center. And now it's catching up to you. So I don't feel bad for you. I mean, I never really did. Well, okay, the wedding episode I did. But
And I'll say this. Do I think she lied? Yes. I think she was just agreeing to things. But I stand by, if David had the aesthetic that she wanted, she would
hmm,
not be making as big of a fuss on this. She wouldn't. And so I think things could be true. I think when she was saying yes to Dr. Pia, it was yes. If I'm attracted to him and I feel that
mm,
pull and that connection, of course. but because she doesn't, that's why it's such a hard no. So, yeah, that attraction, when it's there in the pool and the chemistry is there,
Yeah.
people are willing to overlook a lot of things.
I don't know. I hesitate to say that about people because there's just like no good looks. Like there's certain things for me where it's like I don't care if you're Denzel in 1988. Not interested.
And I'm not
But
saying that they would be married for forever, but I think the willingness to try would
would
be a
have been more.
big motivation. And a specific thing in mind that I'm thinking of is we're watching the Later Daters, how Anise is just so enthralled with Big Willie. Yeah, the way when they were sitting at that table, I said Big Willie could say anything at this moment. Now, do I
Oh
think they'll last
please.
her forever? But no,
If,
but that's what I'm
yeah.
thinking of. Yeah,
If y'all are watching that show, huh?
that attraction that's there,
Yeah.
the way they were locking eyes, if Michelle had that kind of chemistry with the person on her wedding day, she would maybe be like, oh, it's a concern, but she wouldn't be acting like this.
Yeah. Are you guys watching the Later Daters on Netflix? Please let us know. It's a dating show for people over 50. I think everybody's over 50. It was executive produced by Michelle Obama, but Miosha, every show that I've ever gotten addicted to, Miosha introduced me to it. 8 times out of 10.
Yeah.
Awkward black girl.
Oh, God.
Well, Insecure, we were all locked in, but but there have been a lot of shows that even Love is Blind, I feel like we both watched it the first season, and it was because of you. So yeah. Anyway, let us know if you guys are watching that show and what you thought about it. Oh yeah, there is a whole lot more on them. Okay, so
Oh,
go
yeah.
ahead.
So I think where we left off was Dr. Pia basically rolls the footage, lets us know that she agreed to it. But then she says, well, I'm 38 and I'm just not attracted to it. Okay, girl. So you lied. That's fine. Then we go to her place.
Wait, no, Pastor Cal was asking like, "Oh, well, what isn't attractive?" Like, and I wish
Oh,
someone would say this to him. Like, sometimes if something isn't attractive to you, it just isn't attractive. Like, you don't always have the words to articulate it, and I think that's partially what Michelle is feeling. But Dr. Pio was saying, "I know there's more to you than that." And Michelle was looking at her like, "No, there isn't more to me than that. Like,
oh,
I'm
yeah.
ready to get
Their,
out of here,
their
essentially."
ideas of success. He described his as partly being able to take care of myself,
Hmm.
health, my family, my mental state, making memories. Hers was, I think, just financial success.
Yeah. And she
Yeah.
was like, "I know there's more to you than that," which Dr. Pia almost laughed at her, which I thought was kind of funny. She was like, "Are you giving up already?"
Yeah, I just think they're not compatible in that way. I will say, though, I don't know, Michelle, it seems as though she came from a certain background where she really had to grind and get out of the mud, and maybe she grew up poor, is what I'm gathering. And so, I don't know, maybe she's triggered by what she's interpreting as his lack of ambition. But yeah, they're just not compatible in that way. I think he can want the lifestyle that he wants, and I think she can want what she wants as
Hmm.
well. So it's just not each other.
Yeah. Um, Okay, so I think they asked her something like, "What do you have to lose?" I wish she would have been more vocal about what it is that she's afraid of, because if you're afraid of, okay, this man isn't ambitious enough, and he's gonna have, if I'm married to him and if we have a life together, he's gonna have me back in the poorhouse that I came from. Like, that's a valid concern, especially if she's worked her way out of that. So I wish she would have said more there. But
I think she could be just realizing it. I don't even think she's done
the work.
the work to even understand why she's triggered by this guy. It's happening
So
in,
deeply. Like,
yeah,
yeah.
and it's happening in real time. So when she said, "Oh, fear," I can see it now, but
Mm-hmm.
she's still uncovering.
Mm-hmm.
So
So she leaves. She was on the after party, so she commented on this, but she leaves, doesn't come back for a night, and I
mhm.
guess she sent him a text message to say, "Hey, I'm not coming," which she thinks she just gets an A+ for communicating. I guess some people give the bare minimum and think that that makes them a star student. But she said, I needed to get away. I needed more positivity for myself, and I think you've had enough positivity for yourself. Like, you're not the issue with you; it's someone else. But then she comes back in, and she has a list of things that they can do because this is her attempt at making sure they spend more time together, which is something that he wants. What did you think about that list?
mm, I think it would have made sense. To me, a real effort would have been, "Hey, let's sit down and talk about your interests. How do you don't know this guy, so how do you go off?" You basically created a list of things you wanted to do. I, so it would have been better if she came to him and say, "Hey, let's take 30 minutes to talk about cool date ideas."
Yeah, I felt the same way. I was like, she just wrote down all of her interests and she really thought she ate with that list, but she did
Oh, I'm
not.
trying.
Right? I'm trying. Girl, you were probably going to do these things anyway, with or without this man. Like, who do you think you're fooling? Maybe herself. But she said in her diary, Cam, David and I need to do more work on our relationship. I'm like, David and I? Maybe focus on the I. Okay, then they go to her place.
Yeah, so they go to her place. She talks about how she's worked her butt off to have it.
Okay, let's take a poll. You guys let us know in the comments, okay? Was her place simple? Yes or no? That's all I need. Was her place simple? Miosha, what say you?
I think it was. It's what I would expect. Um, it looked fine. It was clean. Yeah, it was simple.
I I I don't know if she expected him to come in there and be like, "Wow, I've never seen anything. This is beautiful." The decor was basic. I mean, and that's not I'm not one to talk. I am very simple. Like if he would have said my place is simple, I would have been like, this is a compliment because I'm just not like the best with interior decorating and all of that stuff. So I thought her place was pretty simple. She had all the things that she needed, all of her necessities. It was a good place, like you have a roof over your head. Maybe he's not impressed by it because maybe he thinks his parents' house looked nicer, or maybe he's been to places that just looked a lot better. But I thought he was trying to compliment her.
Well, I also think too, and I think it goes back to her childhood and maybe where she came from. I get the sense of she's a small town girl, farm girl, worked her way to the big city, has had to grind really hard to get the life that she has.
Mm-hmm.
And it's like she was offended by him maybe not acknowledging her hard work. It was like it was triggering her,
Right.
and she was interpreting it as him downplaying it. But I get the sense from him that maybe he was raised in a middle class experience. He's had the time to go off and get his own place and come back home. He has the
Mm-hmm.
luxury, quote unquote, of doing that. And so I don't know. It's like, yeah, Michelle, girl, most people have their own place, apartment, condo, house, whatever.
He's not impressed by it. Like, and
And
and I don't even think it's that he's not impressed by it. I think he's like, oh, okay, yeah, this is what I would expect from people who have their own place.
and she's 38, so as much as we're kind of like, oh, well, he's 36 and he's like, it's like, well, yeah, most people live on their own, sustain
Mm-hmm.
themselves, and
Yeah.
it was almost like she felt a way that he didn't big up her even more.
But how is he supposed to know that? Like, even all the, well, I had to work, I worked really hard to get all the things that I have. So, yeah, we all did.
What it was. I think it was she felt like he was equalizing them. She sees herself as so much better, and it's almost as though, well, how dare you see me as equal to you as living in a basement? Even the way he described, oh, well, you got a living room, a bed, a kitchen. That's what I have too. She felt pressed that he was equalizing them, and I don't think he was doing that on purpose.
He was trying to compliment her.
But for her, it's how dare you? I have to work so hard. Another thing too is I think she maybe subconsciously feels a way that he has the luxury of parents who would allow him to stay at home and be comfortable. There's
Hmm.
something with people maybe wanting to pair with someone who's had a similar experience of
Yeah.
struggle and the grinding. It's almost as though they're triggered by people whose parents are able to help them
Who've had it
way
easy.
more.
And that's fine if that is what you want. Like, know that, hey, I want someone who, because the way I've heard it said is anything could happen at any point. I don't know if, 10 years from now, we might be in a situation where we're not doing as well. And I want someone who has been in that situation where they've had to climb their way up because they know what it's like and potentially they're able to claw their way out again. Like, some people just want that commonality. And I don't think there's anything wrong with that. But what is wrong is if you are envious and then mean to someone whose experience that is not. Like, it's okay for you not to want to be partnered with them, but don't be like, oh, they're a spoiled brat or they had this and they had that.
Hmm.
You don't know their situation. Just say what you want and leave them alone.
Yeah. Oh, baby, she was pressed.
She was like, even in the car, she was like, I mean, that's not how I would describe it. Like, he was like, no, it's just, it's very, what I think he was trying to say was that it's like a very kind of clean aesthetic.
Hmm.
I mean, he used words like simple and basic, but and I think she thinks those words have a negative connotation. But I'll take simple.
Child.
Uh,
I had a thought, but I'm not gonna say it.
oh, okay. Text it to me.
Yeah.
But yeah. Anyway, she wanted him to be wowed. He was not. And she could have just asked, like, what do you mean by that? What do you mean by simple? What do you mean by basic? Because, that's not how I would describe it because, hey, I've worked really hard. And to me, like, when you come from where I come from, this is really nice. And, it would make me feel good if you had a more positive impression of the place. Or he could have responded and said, oh, I didn't know that would be offensive to you. When I say simple and basic, I just mean like it's not cluttered and, you have all of your essentials and you seem to be in like a stable place. Like, it could have been cleared up instead of her twisting up her face and being mean to him like that.
Yeah.
Anyway,
But yeah, then we go to his basement apartment.
which by the way, you had said this earlier, you have a living room, I have a living room. Technically, he don't have a living
Oh
room,
yeah, he
but
don't have a living room. He don't
it's
have
a
a couch.
studio.
Yeah.
I mean, it looks like someone who lives in the downstairs of their parents' house. Like, I didn't.
So something I was thinking about, I mean,
Mhm.
it could look better. I mean, he could have organized, did a bit more, but he chose not
Yeah.
to. I've seen better looking basement apartments. He's not the first person on here to live in a basement.
Oh
But
yeah.
I will say, even if it was a really nice renovated spacious basement apartment that was really nicely decorated, so on and so forth,
Hmm.
it wouldn't have made a difference anyways.
It
Because he's
wouldn't
not the
have.
light skinned black man she wanted. So
And she was upset that he had a kegster. Is that what it's called?
mhm.
Okay, she said the name of it. Anyway, she was like, "Oh, it gives 20-year-old fry." Okay, and it
Oh,
does.
yeah.
Yeah, and it
Yeah.
does. Like, I didn't think. And I wish he would have stopped. Like, he wanted to have a conversation of, oh, was this what you expected? Or what was your expectation? And she was just like, I mean, so they come down here and they do your laundry. Hey, there are people who live in apartments where everybody shares the
Absolutely.
laundry room. So I didn't think, that was so far-fetched.
Even if he was renting it from someone else, say other people lived upstairs, which happens all the
That's a
time,
possibility
it,
still.
it wouldn't
Yeah.
have mattered because she just doesn't want him. So
Yeah. And
yeah.
she was like, "So do you bring dates back here?" Okay, he's not bringing you back. Why does that matter? I didn't understand that line of questioning. Like it's like she wants him to be ashamed and he's not. So,
Because she would never, but you're not him. And
right.
I think she feels a way that she doesn't have that opportunity.
I think it's just, I think it more is that she questions his ambition. And so I think if she were attracted to him, like you said, maybe she would do some more digging to find out what his ambitions were. You know, she was on the after party and she was talking about this. So was Thomas. And Thomas was saying, you know, we live a different way when we're single. And she goes, well, do you have a keg thingy? And he goes, no, but I wish I did.
Yeah,
He's
most
like,
men like beer. That
we live different. He said we live differently when we're single, like, but that's not necessarily the space that he would move her into. And he said that multiple times. I wouldn't expect you to live down there with me. He's given very much in transition. And if you want someone who is less in transition, that is fine. Like Michelle could have handled this in a way where it's like, there's nothing wrong with you. Like you are where you are in life and that's cool. But, you know, I do want someone who not even is on my level, but someone who is living on their own outside of their parents' home, someone whose ambitions I'm clear about. I think she also doesn't love that he works two jobs or, you know, whatever his career path is. But we haven't seen that conversation on camera, so I don't want to assume.
Yeah, I think when he first said, "Oh, shift or something," I think she was looking for someone who's professional, corporate, maybe.
Yeah. White collar, is that what it is? And he
Yes.
seems more blue collar. Yeah. Okay. Allan and Madison, so we could close it off. I did not expect us to talk this long about this episode.
I know.
Okay. All right. Allan and Madison. There were comments last week and love and appreciate I forget who it was, but someone was like, I remember when Gina and Clint it was like Samaria, it would have been different because remember when Clint and Gina were on the
I
show, you know,
remember.
there was a lot of psych about what he said. I don't know, did Clint make the slender comment in private or when they were sitting with everybody else?
No, he made it when him and her were on the beach. He said
Okay.
athletic build.
Athletic Bill. I have feelings about this, right? I think because of how society because of how we're socialized, right? I do think it is not equal. So a man speaking about a woman's looks and a woman speaking about a man's look, like obviously we would want them to be equal, but in our society, women get more flack about their physical than men do. So I don't think it'll ever be the same. Just like we were saying with Carla and Juan, if this were Juan whose stuff was in the storage, he would be getting beat up because the way that we're socialized is that men are supposed to have a certain status financially and women are supposed to have beauty. So I don't think it'll ever be the same conversation. A
Or even
man's
with Camille
beauty.
and Thomas, how if he were commenting on her sense of style and the dress isn't sexy enough, and yeah, we never stand for it. So I agree.
Yeah, but I don't know that it's because we're people who are not trying to be equal. I think it's just that we don't live in an equal world. So it's harsher.
Well,
Like
I
a man who is overweight, which I still stand by, I think it was appropriate the way that Madison handled it with Allan. Like Allan is not overweight at all. Like he's a very average build man, right? So there's nobody would look at him and be like, oh, he needs to lose weight or he needs to get in the gym. People would be like, okay, he just looks regular. I still don't dislike the way that Madison handled it. She wants someone who's in the gym more, and she didn't say you need to get in the gym or your body is any type of way. She said this is typically what I find attractive And now he has the opportunity to either do it or not.
I remember her wording it as being with someone who takes better care of themselves.
Mm,
And so for me, I stand by, I was still rubbed. I didn't like the way she said that because
mm,
being a gym rat does not equal health.
mm.
So that's why I was like, dang, that's kind of quick to jump to that conclusion about him within a few days of vacation. And yeah, so I stand by, I don't think she should have. I think you get home, you get in your routine, the routine, and you observe. And if
Mm.
you want to be with someone who y'all have the gym as a hobby or whatever, that's fine. But to imply that he doesn't take good care of himself because he's not in the gym like you are, I didn't care for it. So
So you feel like it's okay for her to have the conversation about I want someone in the gym more with me, but she shouldn't have said the thing about someone who cares for their
who
body.
takes better care of themselves? Yeah, yeah. I think saying like, oh, clearly this is a hobby of hers. It's something that she does. She's in the gym a lot, which is fine. Um, I didn't like the timing of it, and I didn't like the way it was worded.
You say you think they should have been home longer.
Yeah.
I don't know. But I just wanted to highlight, like, to me, there is a difference between the Clint and Gina thing, because Gina, one, is a woman in society, but she was also like more, like, she was a thick woman. And so I think, like, Allan being athletic build, or he's not athletic build, but he's definitely slender, in my opinion, especially if the camera adds some weight. He's slender. I don't know that society in general would treat Allan the way that they would treat a Gina. So I think it's a fair comparison to make, and in saying like, okay, well, you felt this way about Gina and Clint, which I did. So we should feel a way about Madison and Allan.
And I think back then I wasn't. I think I stood with Clint and was like, Gina kept mentioning things about him physically. Yeah,
Yeah,
your
cause she, oh
hair,
yeah, cause she made
your
the
hair.
comment about his hair.
He would not let the hair thing go. Oh, she made a
His
few
hair.
comments
She
about.
brought it up a few times.
She brought it up a
Yeah.
few times, and then he finally was like, "Well, usually I date da 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 da."
Mhm. Yeah,
So
I think he felt like she was hitting below the belt, and I don't know if he intentionally hit below. Like, I don't know. Clint, at the end of that season, I was like, Clint can do no wrong, so he ain't mean it. Whatever it was, he was right.
I will say, to keep the situation separated, um, I think Jim or not or whatever, I just don't think
Mhm.
Madison is attracted to him, and I
Yeah.
think it's a few things. Um,
Mm.
yeah, I think it's even before she was like, oh well, maybe he's too nice, and yeah,
Sh-
I think it's
She's
a few
trying to
things.
put her finger on it, but sometimes you just can't put your finger on it. Because even
Yeah,
the
but
flashy, she was saying he dresses in a flashy way, but then when we went to his house, his clothes were pretty not flashy. And even the flashy thing that she thought, like the fur coat, it was a bomber jacket. It wasn't flashy at all. And so I'm like, okay, girl, you run out of reasons.
and
What?
and also once again, I understand that things aren't equal, but she's not the most hip and fashionable herself. Girl, you've been in athleisure workout clothes this whole time, which is fine,
Mm-hmm.
but if it were him commenting on what you're wearing, even what we've seen the last two episodes of them being home, he's that hasn't worn anything that's so far left. I don't know. I think people should just be mindful. If you don't like a person and you're not attracted to them, that's fine. But I think if the roles are reversed, you get very sensitive. And I don't know, he's taking it in stride. He's like, I'm gonna still be me.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know. It just feels like he's being picked on a bit.
Oh, interesting. I don't think we're at a place of being picked on yet, but I have a sense that we might get there.
Yeah, it's maybe we're getting there. Maybe we're there. I don't know, but if you've observed him at home, what he's been wearing has been fine. Why is this even a conversation about what's in his closet or not?
It shouldn't come up anymore. But again, because they just got back from the honeymoon, if we hear
But
about it next episode, go ahead. Sorry.
you know what I can put my foot on?
What?
Her not coming home.
Yeah.
So you
Yes.
want to talk about his wardrobe so bad, but you have no respect, decorum for him just as a person.
It
Just
was inconsiderate. It was super inconsiderate. I'm like, there's no way around that. Your first night together, and I wish that he would have let her know it was unacceptable. I think he's being very sweet and just trying to say, hey, no hard feelings. Like, I do want to understand what was going on, but it's fine. Like, there will be moments. Yeah, there will be moments, but not your first night back. It sent a message that you just couldn't wait to get away from me. And if I'm here and I'm committed to this, it would be nice if I had a partner who showed up too. So,
not only that, you show up looking clearly hungover. Just yeah, no.
yeah, I think he should have been more direct with her. Uh, yeah,
He's
because that's what wasn't cool.
he's trying to win her a bit. He even mentioned the whole gym thing. Oh, I've been going to the gym. She didn't even know or notice. He
That's
gonna mess
it. That was so
around.
sweet, but she doesn't care.
Yeah, she gonna mess around and he's gonna. You can have a gym body like that's your body can be altered. And I'm not saying he would do this just for her, but I don't know. I like Alan. I'm not saying that she should be forced to be attracted to him, but he's a good catch and this isn't gonna work and he'll find somebody else. Send him down to the A. There's a few people I know that might be
She
interested.
don't know nobody. Alan, don't come here. She don't know nobody. You will be disappointed.
Shoot, he got that Jaguar. He got a nice house.
Okay, and this irritated me about Madison. So he was saying, the hoopty, which it irritated me about Madison and Alan actually. Madison because she's like, hoopty, who says that? I've never heard that term. Yeah, you wouldn't because it's not your demographic. But also him calling that car a hoopty, I'm like, have hoopties changed?
No,
Because
he was saying it to be funny. It didn't work because she didn't know what a hoopty was. If she knew
I,
what it was and then she walked out and saw a Jaguar, clearly he was trying to downplay because he said, "Oh, when she asked, well, what is it?" He was like, "Oh, it's a shit car." So because she didn't know what it was and that's not her vernacular, clearly.
it's not
Uh,
his either.
no, it's not. But he said he liked Pop Smoke and what did he say? He liked the thuggish, ruggish bone.
I I think things that are culturally relevant should stay in the cultures that they're relevant to.
Yeah. Yeah.
And then her calling him Thug Life Allen. Okay, come on. Let's Savannah, slow down. Like let's relax a little bit here, please. Okay, but I think she's impressed by him. She still doesn't like him, but what he did with remodeling the kitchen, I think it makes her respect him. And I think Madison can acknowledge all the good things. This is the difference between her and Michelle, because I think they're very similar in that they don't like their matches and they're finding things that are wrong. But I think the difference is that Madison understands that Alan is either on her level or above or whatever. Like she can respect him, she just doesn't like him. Whereas I think with Michelle, not only does she not like him, she doesn't respect him at all because she doesn't see him as on her level. And so, but I think these women are very similar.
I would venture to say I agreed. I would have agreed with you up until this episode that Madison respects him. I think
Hmm.
her pulling what she did the first night home, texting at 1 a.m., "Hey, I'm not coming back." There's no respect there.
I think I think where the respect and admiration came in was after seeing his house, just to be clear.
Oh, okay. Okay.
Yeah. Yeah. So they met with the experts, and they were talking about, oh yeah, things are good. They were all positive, and then Dr. Pepper's like, "What are your hills to climb?" Which she's like, "Listen, we got reports on y'all. We know it ain't all good. Tell me what's happening, so we could get this, so I could get back to my to where I live, because you know they're not about to show up they're not about to show up until decision day at this point." So uh they were talking about her not wanting to change him and all of this stuff. And I think in those cases, you let the person decide whether or not they want to change. And if they change, great. If they don't, then you can move on. But yeah, I agreed with the experts with all they're talking about. I don't want to change this person. Yeah, you do, kind of, and that's fine.
Yeah, like what are you expecting that someone would be birthed into this world the perfect fit for you in every way?
You're not even the perfect fit for you in every way. Like, so
Exactly. You may notice some things about yourself that you don't like and you'll adjust and change as needed. So, yeah, something that Dr. Pepper said to her in that, in regards to how she used to date, she was saying like, before the guys that you were into, the gym guys, those were more hot date material, but they weren't husband material. And so I think what Madison wants is the hot date material merged with the husband.
and that's what
And
we all want, no?
I, well, I don't know. Like
Someone we're attracted to, but who's husband material.
right. And, but I think, I don't know. This is a conversation we'll have offline about like men who are like really heavy in the gym. Um, but I haven't, hasn't been my type to be like, oh, I want like a gym body, that's for me, it would be very specific. So what I think Dr. Pepper was getting to, and it was that you may not find that in the timetable that you want to progress your life forward. And I think for Madison, I don't know, she may be willing to wait or forego it. Clearly, this isn't it. So,
Yeah. Madison mentioned how he receives everything she says. I I hope that she sees, oh, he's putting in the effort and stuff like that. He clearly likes her and wants to impress her. But I mean, she probably won't. We can give up on them now.
and then, he talked about how he's been in the gym. He cooked them a really nice dinner. I think Allan is a good catch, but I get the sense that he's really trying to impress her. It's probably not going to work. I think for her, she would be feeling like she really settled with him.
Yeah. But what do you do when you're in this process, right? Like, you do still have to keep trying, maybe, unless you're Chris and Alyssa, but you do still have to put forth the effort and give the person the time of day. Like, if this were the dating world and I were Alan's friend, I would say, hey, you're doing everything you're supposed to do. This person just isn't your match, or they don't see you as their match. It's time to move on. That's what I would say if I were his friend, and just have him move on. But because they're in this process, do we want him to shut down? You know,
And I wrote, I don't know, is Madison actually his right match?
no, but we won't find out because there's been so much emphasis on her not being his, right? Um,
Yeah,
or him not being hers. Sorry, I said that wrong.
I know what you meant.
Yeah.
So,
I don't know. I think a lot of things with all these couples now, just to like sum it up, I think a lot of the conversations that they're having are okay. I think because they're having the conversations on national TV, it makes it a little bit different. I think personally, like even with Camille and Thomas, or Allan and Madison, like someone saying to their partner, oh, hey, can you not wear I saw on the internet the other day, it was like, I think I said this in the last episode too, but how wives be coming to bed dressed like Soldier Boy. Like if someone said, hey, can you not wear the Soldier Boy outfit around the house the entire time? I don't think there's a problem with that. I don't think there's an issue with saying to your partner, hey, can you do this differently or that differently? I think, just the types of couples we have make it more complicated in the fact that it's on TV.
Yeah, because if it works or you choose to try to make it work, you still have to move on with this being out there. And maybe that's my mindset too, of maybe wanting to protect your partner and being mindful of the conversations you are having. Should you really be genuine in this process, and you want to say yes on decision day, protecting them in your union a bit before you just put it all out there. So.
I mean, we would talk about them. We'd be like, yeah, we feel like there's stuff we don't know. We're not getting everything, but who cares? We're just two people with a YouTube channel. Like, have your relationship. Like, that's more important than our opinions for sure.
With Thomas and Camille, that's how I feel. Be the
I
boring
could
couple.
tell.
We don't need to know it all. Y'all figure it out on the back end.
I could tell. I can tell you like them or want them to work.
Yeah, figure it out. Say more after the cameras go off. Yeah, Camille, protect what you have. That's what I want from her.
Well, on that note, we'll see you guys next week. Until next time, let us know. I know I'm going to hear it about the Madison Allan thing, but I appreciate all the comments, and I love like interacting with you guys and hearing your perspectives and them being different or similar or whatever. So we will see y'all next week. Bye.
Bye.